Here is a booklet called Some Facts and More Facts About Charles Taze Russell on page 25. It starts talking about his wife and what Russell was doing inside their relationship. It starts out saying here, as to his improper conduct towards other women, that you might see that I know whereof I speak and am telling the truth. I will quote from Mrs. Russell's evidence upon this subject taken in the Court of Common Pleas, number 1. She is under oath and direct examination by her attorney, Mr. Porter. So here are questions and answers. When did you have your first material disagreement with your husband? The first serious trouble with my husband was what you stated this morning. The first indignity with this woman who was in the office and in our home. What was the name of the girl? Rose Ball. That is the girl you spoke of a few moments ago? Yes, sir. How long had she been with you before this trouble arose? She came to us in about 1884. Did she live with you? Yes, sir. How long did she live with you? She was with us for about 10 or 11 years. Oh, she was with us about 12 years. Just state what you observed about your husband's conduct with this girl in your presence in your home. Previous to this time, my husband had suggested to me the idea of separation, and he said if I would agree to a separation, he would give me the house in which we were living. He said we were incompatible. When was that? That was shortly before the objection was made about 1893. We were still living on Clifton Avenue. What brought about the proposition from your husband? A number of disagreements, and one thing was this. There had been letters that my husband had written to parties to which I had to make very serious objections. One of them came to me in this way. Mr. Russell had certain letters, certain envelopes that were marked personal, was printed on them, and he sent a number of these envelopes to persons that he wanted to correspond with him privately. I want you to tell us what your husband did in company with this woman, Rose, in your presence and in your home. One evening I spent the evening downstairs, and our library and bedroom were next to each other upstairs on the second floor, and I spent the evening downstairs reading, and I went upstairs about 10 o'clock to my room, and I suppose that he was either in the library or had retired, and when I went up there, I found that he was in neither place, and I stepped out in the hall. There I found that he was in his night robe, sitting beside Miss Ball's bed, and she was in bed. On other occasions I found him going in there, and I found she called him in, and said she wasn't well, and wanted him in, and I objected to this, and I said that it was highly improper, and I said, we have people about the house, and what kind of a name will be attached to this house if you do that kind of thing? And he got angry. You state that you found him doing this at other times. How often after that? I found him a number of times. I don't remember how often. In her room? Yes, sir. And I found him in the servant girl's room as well, and I found him locked in the servant girl's room. Did he make any explanation why he was in the girl's room? No, he did not. He just got angry. What did you say to him about this conduct, and what did he say? I said to him, we have a great work on our hands, and I said, in this work you and I have to walk very circumspectly before the world. And if you're going to do things like this, what will happen? Suppose you are all right. Don't you suppose people will talk about things like this? And I said, I am not satisfied with it. And he said he wasn't going to be ruled by me, but I felt distressed about that. When would he go to the Watchtower in the morning? I don't remember. He generally went down alone. Who would return with him? She came with him in the evenings, and they came home about 11 o'clock, and the young men that were in the office. She was the only girl, and the young men who would go home, and he wouldn't allow her to go with them, and she must wait and always go with him. I want the mere fact. Did this girl Rose go home with your husband? Yes, sir. And the young man came home ahead of them? Yes, sir. State to the court and jury what talk, if any, you had with this girl Rose in regard to her relations with your husband, which you communicated to your husband. I told him that I had learned something that was very, very serious, and I didn't tell him right away. I let a day elapse until I felt I had control of myself and could talk, and then I told him that I had something very serious to tell him about this matter, and he said, "What is it?" And I said, "Rose has told me that you have been very intimate with her, and that you have been in the habit of hugging and kissing her, and having her sit on your knee, and fondling each other. And she tells me you bid her on no account to tell me, but she couldn't keep it any longer. She said if I was distressed about it, she felt she would have to come and make a confession to me, and she has done that." What year was that? He tried to make light of it at first, and I said, "Husband, you can't do that. I know the whole thing. She has told me straight, and I know it to be true." Well, he said he was sorry. It was true, but he was sorry. He said he didn't mean any harm. I said, "I don't see how you could do and act like that without meaning harm." What year was that? In the fall of 1894. Did you state to your husband at this meeting any endearing terms? Yes, sir. What were they? I said, "She tells me that one evening when you came home, I asked her, when did these things occur?" I said to him, "She says they occurred down at the office when she stayed down there with him in the evenings, after the rest had gone, and at home at any time when I wasn't around." Now about the endearing terms. She said one evening when she came home with him, just as she got inside the hall, it was late in the evening, about 11 o'clock, and put his arms around her and kissed her. This was in the vestibule before they entered the hall, and he called her his little wife. But she said, "I am not your wife." And he said, "I will call you daughter, and a daughter has nearly all the privileges of a wife." Then what other terms were used? Then he said, "I am like a jellyfish. I float around here and there. I touch this one and that one, and if she responds, I take her to me, and if not, I float on to others." And she wrote that out so that I could remember it for sure when I would speak to him about it. And he confessed that he said those things. When here in court, Russell confessed with some difficulty that his wife had found him in his night robe in the room of Rose Ball, sitting by her bed and holding her hand, but explained that he was only feeling her pulse. He admitted also that his wife found him locked in the room of the other servant girl, Emily Matthews, but explained that he had locked the door, that the young woman might hear what he had to say to her. It is due Mr. Russell also to state that in the Court of Common Pleas he swore that he was only locked in the servant girl's room a minute, and in our court he swore he was locked in the room but 2 minutes. But his wife has a little different story to tell about the length of time that her husband was locked in the room. Though not under oath, the oath makes no difference to her, she said. It was between 6 and 7 o'clock in the morning. I missed my husband and went in search of him. I called to him, but there was no answer. I went to Emily's room and found the door locked. I called to him and knocked on the door. I stood there for 7 or 10 minutes. Then he came out. I reprimanded him, and he only got angry and said, "I will not be run by you." These are not my words, but a statement of Mrs. Russell to my lawyers in my presence. Though I will not vouch for the truthfulness of this statement, I have all confidence in Mrs. Russell's veracity.